temperatures already dipping down into the 70s, expected to drop down into the 50s later tonight. And the Reds taking the field on this Monday night, the first of 3 here against Mike Matheny's division-leading St. Louis Cardinals. They won 8 of their last 9, and now a 4.5 game lead inside the National League's Central Division. Let's take a look at his starting lineup tonight. Presented by Meyer. Carpenter at third, John Jay in center, Matt Holliday in left. Matt Adams, the first baseman and cleanup hitter. Johnny Peralta, shortstop. Yadier Molina catching. He's back again, healthy after the thumb surgery. And a ladder third of Oscar Taveras, Colton Wong, and Shelby Miller. Starting it for the Reds since being brought up from Louisville, making his 4th start, a 1-1 record and a very fine ERA, is Dylan Axelrod.
He has impressed. There's no question about it. The Reds signed him, but when they were able to trade him for an exchange for cash from the Chicago White Sox, because they were worried about the health of their pitching staff. They were wondering if they needed somebody to come up from AAA, throw strikes, keep the team in the ball game. They weren't sure they had what they needed down there. So they made this trade, got a 28-year-old right-hander. He had extensive exterior experience last year as a starter for the White Sox. And he's going to get a chance here to pitch out the rest of the season and take a look at him in spring training. Drafted by the Padres back in the 30th round. He's bounced all over the place. He's played an independent ball. He's been up and down. And he really relishes this opportunity to pitch in the major leagues and finally show what he thinks he's learned, and which is how to pitch at this level.
Well, Brian Price already going on record that he believes Alfredo Simon will be again part of the starting rotation looking ahead to next year. And there's very little doubt that if everybody indeed is brought back, there is no room in that rotation for anybody. If Simon's in there to go along with Bailey and Latos and Cueto and Leake, those are big decisions the Reds have to make during the offseason. So Carpenter digging in, takes a fastball high, and this one underway. 275 batters, 7 home runs, 55 batted in. Carpenter's had a good year. He's not had what he had a season ago, which was an extraordinary year. 1-1. Carpenter was one of the best offensive players in the league last season and got a number of votes for the league's most valuable player award. Ball hit hard, but Heisey able to leap into the air and get it. He initially made a step in, it looked like, and was able to recover.
Well, Matt Carpenter does this about as well as anybody, which is hit the ball the other way. I think that ball took off a little bit more than Chris Heisey thought, but he was able to corral it.
John Jay began the year in the backup spot to Peter Bourjos in center field, but played his way into a starting role and is playing his way into a starring role for the Cardinals. That batting average all the way up to .315. 39 batted in. That job belongs to him. Should they reach the playoffs, he will be in that lineup. Barring facing maybe a guy like Clayton Kershaw, a left-hander on the mound, maybe you give Bourjos a start, but outside of that, you got to believe Jay will be in there. 1-2. The Cardinals took off in the month of August. They were floundering around, much like the Reds, right around 500, a little bit above 500. Remember, the Reds were the team that at the All-Star break was in second place, a game and a half behind front-running Milwaukee. Well, basically, that's about the time the Cardinals righted the ship, and things, unfortunately for the Reds, went the other way. They went 27-20 in August, and they've only lost once in September, and now all of a sudden something appears to be wrong with Dylan Axelrod.
I mean, they called out Brian Price right away. You could see Devin Mesoraco turn to the home plate umpire Chris Guccione and say, hold on here, we've got to go out and talk to him. Take a look at the last pitch that he threw and see if we can see anything here. other than him taking his pitching thumb and kind of rubbing it around his belt, maybe moving his arm a little bit, we have no indication. Oh, that's Paul Lassard, the head trainer in the dugout, and Steve Bauman, the assistant trainer on the mound with Axelrod. They're just going to walk him right off the mound.
So after 7 pitches, and this his 4th start since being brought up to the Reds big league club, Dylan Axelrod will walk off the mound here at Great American Ballpark. And the Reds are going to bring in left-hander David Holmberg from their bullpen. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the pen. We get any word? If we get word from Rob Butcher, the Reds director of media relations, from the clubhouse as to Dylan's condition, we'll certainly let you know. What we do know is the Reds are going to bring on left-hander David Holmberg from the bullpen. One of the 10 September call-ups, his 3rd stint with the Reds this season. Of course, his first 2 appearances came as a starter, and neither one of them went well at all.
Holmberg is still very young, only 23 years old. Of course, he was acquired in that 3-team trade that sent Ryan Hanigan to the Tampa Bay Rays, and he came from Arizona in part of that trade. So Holmberg pitched for the most part down in AAA this year. He did have some arm problems early on that sent him back. 2nd round pick originally by the Chicago White Sox in 2009.
Let's take a look at the Reds on defense tonight, presented by your Ford dealers while Holmberg gets warmed up. Billy Hamilton will be flanked in the outfield by Heisey and Jay Bruce. Brian Pena over at first base, Frazier at 3rd, middle infield of Cozart and Phillips, and Devin Mesoraco back behind the plate. And Devin going to come out and visit Holmberg on the mound, who didn't need very long to get ready.
No, he didn't. Of course, he was in the bullpen, so you figure he had that reliever's state of mind. But I can tell you that it is one of the most uncomfortable things that you can possibly do, which is come into a ball game for an injured pitcher. You stand on the mound and you get all your warm-up pitchers right there in front of everybody, including the opposition. I mean, they're watching your every move. They're seeing your breaking ball. They're trying to see something from you. So it is not an enviable place to be. I can tell you that right now. And he probably wanted to get that warm-up over as quick as he can and get the live game action.
Swing and a miss, and that is strike 3, and that batter belongs to Holmberg. So 1 pitch and a strikeout for David. So 2 down here in the St. Louis first inning, and that'll bring up the red hot Matt Holliday. They've waited a while for him to get hot. 81 runs batted in. Holliday with 16 home runs. Had a couple of hits, couple of RBIs yesterday, 3 hits on Thursday. Named the National League's Player of the Week. Had 4 home runs and knocked in a whopping 13 runs. Got that one a bit off the end of the bat, and that'll land in the mid of Heisey. So a good start for David Holmberg. Chris has been talking about him going back to spring training, so we'll see what he has in store tonight. It's his starting lineup that he'll send up there starting here in the bottom of the inning. Brought to you by Meyer, Billy Hamilton, Brian Pena, Todd Frazier. Devin Mesoraco in a cleanup spot, Brandon Phillips and Jay Bruce to follow. And a latter third of Chris Heisey, Zach Cozart, and now David Holmberg. And on the mound for the Cardinals, an 8-9 record, an ERA right at 4. See the walk, 71. That's most on their staff, as are his 20 home runs allowed. Shelby Miller.
Now, Shelby Miller, former #1 pick, 6'3", 195 pounds. He's only 23 years old. Cardinals signed him out of Brownsburg High School, or Brownwood High School in Brownwood, Texas, a suburb of Houston. He had a really good run of it early in the year where he went 6-2, had an earned run average under 2.8, but In his last 18 starts, he struggled mightily, especially to put wins on the board. He's only 2-7 in his last 18 starts. And he struggled a little bit on the road. He'll come after the Reds tonight primarily with a fastball. He's throwing a little bit more two-seam fastballs than he did early in the year. First couple of times the Reds saw him, he was a high fastball pitcher with a big overhand curveball, but he's trying to get that ball down around the knees a little bit more now, and that requires a two-seamer.
All right, Billy digging in, looks at a fastball on the outside corner, a strike. Hamilton at 264, 46 runs batted in. Showing button to breaking ball, misses inside. Again this season, the Cardinals have dominated the Reds. Well, they're hoping by facing Miller will get him off on the right foot in this series. They've already handed him a pair of losses this year. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And the Reds only have 3 wins in 12 games against the Cardinals so far this season. And that's a fastball on the outside corner, strike 3.
He's got a live arm. There's no question about that. Look at the late life that this fastball has, and Billy Hamilton thinks that ball is going to dart down and away, and it just has great carry on it. Pretty good spot right there on the knees, and Hamilton goes down looking.
Brian Pena seen a lot of playing time this first season as a Cincinnati Red. Behind the plate, and of course a lot of time ever since Joey Votto went down over at first base. Takes outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Milwaukee will play later tonight at home against Miami. There you get a look at Joey Votto, and there have been stories the last couple of days suggesting there might be a chance, Mr. Welsh, that we will see Joey Votto before the end of this year. Now, he said, look, if I am able to play even the final inning of the final game, then I'll do it.
Well, that's the kind of attitude you want. I did not see him down on the field working out with the team today.
Holiday will handle the routine fly ball, 2 away.
That does not mean he's not out here early before anybody gets to the ballpark doing some baseball stuff, but I would imagine that Joey feels like, he's been out for so long that why rush it back right now? I think what his attitude has been is that I'll come back when I'm healthy and able to play, and only he can determine that.
Of course, a man who's grown to be very close with Joey Votto is our very own Jim Day, and I think it'd be a good chance to check in with him right about now as Adams in pursuit of that foul ball can't get there in time. How about it, Jim?
He took some ground balls today before the Reds took batting practice. He took them while the Reds were stretching out, and I got to tell you, he passed the eye test last time that he took ground balls. We were on the road, and they shut him down because he felt tremendous amount of discomfort in that leg. And just, again, going by the eye test today, he looked much, much more comfortable today.
I got to tell you, I was sharing a story with Chris before the ball game. The fellow I worked with in the NFL was an all-pro offensive lineman. Played more than a dozen years in the NFL, just retired last year, named David Deal, played for the New York Giants. And of course, as a football player, I mean, the number of injuries you have, especially as a lineman, are just incredible. Year after year after year. And he told me by far and away the most excruciating pain he has ever been through in his life were those plasma injections, where they take blood out, tumble it around, try to enrich it and so forth, and shoot it back into your bloodstream. And Votto has already been through, what, 3 of those, Jim, so far? Or is it, last check, was it 2? Is it now 3?
I believe it's 2, and I can tell you firsthand that when he had the last one done, he was having trouble, discomfort just going down the steps.
Yep.
So you could tell he was in a lot of pain afterwards, and they basically shut whoever takes those PRP injections down for a week or more where you do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I was stunned when David Deal was sharing that story with me. He said, in fact, there was a male nurse sitting there, and the nurse looked at him beforehand and said, hey, look, you might want to grab a hold of my arm here before we give you this injection. And, you know, for a guy 6'7", 320 pounds, he looks at the guy and says, you got to be kidding me. I've been getting my brains beat in for a decade. The guy says, all right, well, you have it your way. And the next thing you know, they put that needle in there, and said he's never felt anything like it and is thankful he's never had to go through another one of those again.
But they worked. They worked for David Deal, right? Isn't that what he said?
They had him ready to go for a game. Less than 2 weeks later, his injury, from what I understand of Otto's injury, and I don't know a ton about it, but it sounds like his is obviously much more severe than the one Deal had to require one injection. As Frazier pops it up into shallow right field, Tavera's there, and the inning is over. Reds are gone against Miller in order. No score at the end of one. Page, what makes Christopher Negron such a valuable asset? And the Ohio State University Marching Band pays tribute to the Simpsons during a halftime performance. Check it all out at foxsportsohio.com. And yes, indeed, Jeff Piccoro is already fired up. Tomorrow, the first segment of Reds Live, right around 6:30. He will be able to officially give me my pie to the face after his University of Kentucky Wildcats covered the point spread.
I understand, Tom, that there were 2 pies. One was a green pie representing the colors of the Ohio Bobcats, and the blue pie, of course, from the Big Blue of Kentucky.
Really?
Sounds like you're getting the blue pie.
All right, fair enough. Looking forward to it. Popped up behind the second base bag, and Cozart out to get it. One away. You know, congratulations are in order for you and your teammates, 4 of them today. Jim Volpenheim, captain and general manager Ed Shepard, right? Lance Lucas. And why am I drawing
Dave Mackey?
And Dave Mackey, of course. Winners out at Belterra of the Marty Brennaman Golf Classic today. That would be your 3rd team title, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, in many years, but the last few years we were trending the wrong way, and I know that you as the owner you sent out the word. And Eddie Shepard realized, you know, a guy in his last year of a contract, he was motivated, and boy, he motivated that team today. He did a great job.
Well, all of you were on the last year of a contract. He wasn't the only one. He just happens to be the general manager, so it became far more public. But I'm here the first to let you and let the rest of the teammates know that because of your spectacular work today, all of you have been awarded 2-year contract extensions. So congratulations, if you'll accept it, of course. There's a fly ball to center, and that'll be the second out of the inning. I'd like to think you'll be coming back next year.
Well, is that guaranteed money? And if we don't, will there be a buyout at the end of that?
There will be no buyout at the end, no. But it is guaranteed for 2 years.
Good enough for me, and I'm sure that it's good enough for Mr. Shepard too, because
he's earned it.
He was relieved to see those punts drop. Of course, he made about half of them anyway.
Well, they earned it. All of you earned it. So congratulations. I'm very proud of you. I'm just a little surprised that I've not received a congratulatory phone call from the host of the tournament.
Well, you know, I got to tell you that Charlie Frank and everybody involved down there with the Marty Brennaman Golf Classic did an outstanding job. The program last night at Belterra was terrific. Comedians were great. I mean, it was just a great weekend of fun, and all for a very good cause, the Reds Community Fund.
So thank all of you who made it a part of your weekend and early part of the week as well. A lot of money raised for the Reds Community Fund. Thank you, and thank you to Marty Brennaman. For dealers, Holiday, Jay, Tavares left, center, and right. Carpenter, Peralta on the left side of the infield. Colton Wong and Matt Adams on the right side. Molina healthy again. And Miller on the mound. Boy, it's extraordinary how young this Cardinal team is when you look at that lineup on the field. You basically got a first full-year player at first. You have a first-year player at second base. You have a young third baseman. And you have a rookie out in right field. And Shelby Miller's in what, his third year in the big league?
Well, you're right, and a lot of it has come right from within that Cardinal farm system that has been very prolific the last few years. You know, Shelby Miller on the mound tonight, a draft pick of 2009, and he's surrounded by guys really that came through that same draft. Overall, it was a very good draft for Major League Baseball. But Miller was a first-round pick there. Matt Carpenter came in that draft. Matt Adams, the first baseman in that same draft.
Mazzaracco leading off the Reds' second inning, and that's into the mid of John Jay.
Take a look at those players that are on both teams from that 2009 draft. Remember, that was the draft that Steven Strasburg was taken #1 overall. The Reds picked Mike Leake. They got Billy Hamilton, Tucker Barnhart, 3 players that are on the big league roster now. The Cardinals have 4 on that roster. It just happens to be the 3 of them are on the field right now, with Shelby Miller getting the start tonight. I mean, when you can have 3 players from one draft, just 5 years removed, on your big league roster, that's a very good draft, because sometimes a team will go through an entire year and really just strike out, just have some bad luck, have some injuries, maybe make some bad scouting decisions.
That'll be the first base runner for either team tonight. A 1-out single by Brandon Phillips. Well, not only now play 3 players, Chris, on your roster, but in the Cardinals case here tonight, to have 3 of them in your starting lineup.
Yeah. And there were a few others from the Cardinals. I think Joe Kelly was also in that draft. Of course, he's been traded from the Cardinals to the Boston Red Sox. Brad Boxberger was also taken in that draft by the Reds, and he's been traded a couple of times, once to the Padres, and now he's with the Tampa Bay Rays.
That was the Reds, I believe, second-round pick out of the University of Southern California. So now Jay Bruce, he's down a strike. Fastball just low and away. And a ball and a strike on Jay. 16 home runs, 60 batted in, a .216 batting average for Jay Bruce. That's a fastball right down the middle to get ahead at 1-2 for Miller. We were talking about Brad Boxberger and bouncing around a little bit. There's a ground ball for 1, and that's an easy double play, and that'll end the Reds' second inning. We'll talk more about that later. Well, another second-round pick twirling him up there for the Reds. David Holmberg back on the mound when we come back.
Sports, Ohio. I'm Jim Day. My pleasure to welcome in Scott Hartnell. He's a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, getting ready for another NHL season up in Columbus, and appreciate you joining us. First of all, I was expecting the big bushy hair like you had in Philadelphia. Is this just an off-season thing?
I wanted to. Summer's always nice to have short hair, especially with the hot weather. But I'm just excited to get to Columbus, get set up, and excited to be here today. Watch the guys play.
Before we get to hockey, let's talk about baseball a little bit. How I know in Saskatchewan, I understand you play some Little League ball?
Yeah, played growing up, and I don't think I was the best player around, but love to be able to, outside on a nice sunny day and, play catch and hit the ball around. And always been a fan of it. Philadelphia, watched the Phillies play, and just always been a big fan.
And you watch the Phillies play the Reds, I know, and a game Reds fans would like to forget that series.
I hate to say it, but it was a pretty good game that first day. If you like Halladay, I liked him playing for the Blue Jays before he came to Philly, so he was my boy. But no, it's just cool to be here at new ballparks. There's nothing better than having a cold beer and a hot dog and just enjoying some nice weather and a good ball game.
No question about it. All right, you threw out the ceremonial first pitch. Looked pretty good. How'd you feel?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't too nervous till I actually went out on the mound. I looked where I was throwing it. It looked like it was a good quarter mile that I was throwing it, but I was able to get it over the plate. And you know, I think if there was an umpire there, it would have been a for sure strike.
You met. Well, we have one Canadian on this team, that being Joey Votto. You guys were able to talk before the game. How'd that go?
Well, a good Canadian boy, obviously is, and obviously watched his career. There's not too many of them in the major leagues, and really nice gentleman. And you know, obviously offered him or some of the guys want to come down to Columbus and watch a game, and you know, he goes back to Toronto for some time in the summer. So obviously we play the Maple Leafs too. So hopefully be able to hook up with him, and just an honor to meet all the guys here, especially Joey. Yeah,
before it was a treat to go to Toronto, with now the Blue Jackets now in the Eastern Conference, so play them a lot more. Let's talk about the hockey team. Now, when I was covering hockey, you were with the team that in Columbus they called Darth Vader. You were with the Nashville Predators, and that didn't go so well back in the day. But how do you think you're going to endear yourself to Blue Jacket fans?
Well, like you said, I played Nashville. I played a lot of games against the Blue Jackets, and you know, even then it was a hard building to come in and play. Even though maybe we did beat them more times than not, we're in a Nashville jersey. But the last few years, you know, obviously talked with my family when the trade was going on, talking to you know, other guys in the league, other peers, and said, "Wow, that's a great you know, addition to Columbus. They were hard to play against now, and be a little bit better that I got here, and hopefully I can contribute, be a leader, win some hockey games. That's what it's all about, and obviously win a Stanley Cup. And we believe that we got a great young group of guys, and we're right there."
It's definitely a different culture up there in Columbus, making the playoffs last year, and that always gets the fan base going, gets the team going, get the morale going. So guys looking forward to perhaps obviously making the playoffs, going deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. It was you know, watching that series last season against Pittsburgh, they were right there beside him, and you know, the biggest thing that made me want to come here, you know, had to waive my no move clause to come here. It was talking with John Davidson, talking with Yarmo, how disappointed they were and not satisfied of just making the playoffs, how they wanted to beat Pittsburgh. And when you hear that from the top people, it just filters right down through the organization, and that's something I want to be a part of. I want to win. That's the only thing I want to do is win.
John Davidson, a good hockey man. There's no question about that. Season opener October 9th at Buffalo. And then the home opener October 11th versus the Rangers. You got to be looking forward to that, because that means training camp is over, because you're at the back end of the career, and I imagine training camp isn't fun anymore.
No, it's this is probably the least fun part of the year for me. The 2 weeks leading up to training camp, when you get there, your business, your own business. This is a tough time, but you know, excited to play the Rangers. Obviously, being in Philly, you got a lot of rivalries, you know, against Pittsburgh, against the Rangers, and you know, I'm looking forward to just bringing my attitude, my hard work, my you know, passion for the game in that dressing room, and you know, show the young guys that it's you know, we're here to win.
All-Star game. It's going to be an Ohio flair in two of the major sports. Cincinnati looking forward to the 2015 All-Star game. In Columbus, the All-Star game was supposed to be there a few years back, but the lockout didn't enable that to happen. But it's going to be there. There's got to be a lot of excitement in Seabus for the All-Star game.
No, it's cool. I think it's the passion the fans show out there to bring the, you know, one of the coolest, where every best player over the whole league gets to come to Columbus, showcase their talents, and you know, it's a well-deserving town, I think, for it, and I'm sure they'll put on a great show.
I know they had some Hartnell wigs in Philadelphia because of that hair. Can we expect the long hair coming up in the season? That's the pertinent question right here.
Well, the one guy that I do remember playing against the Blue Jackets was Mike Commodore, and he'd always cut her short and just let the orange curly hair go. And
he'd cut it short and then leave it go the rest of the way.
So I don't know what I'm going to do this year, just how I feel, but I'm sure you know, in the 5 years I got left, I'm sure the long hair will come out one of the times. So
looking forward to it. Appreciate you joining us. Lots of luck this season.
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That is Scott Hartnell, going to add a lot of veteran presence to the Blue Jackets this season, and going to go back to the playoffs. Tom?
And I know, Jim, you'll be right there following them every step of the way. 1-0 to Matt Carpenter. They had the single first base runner of the game by Colton Wong. Little flare into left field. They bunt him to second base. So now the first scoring chance for either team thus far. A runner in scoring position with 2 out. Carpenter lined out hard to Heisey in left, leading off the game. And it's in there, a strike. One and one on Matt Carpenter. And Holmberg to the plate, and the breaking ball sweeps away. That one bounces up there to the left-handed batting Carpenter, and it's 3 balls and a strike. Left-handed batting John Jay waits on deck.
One thing that Matt Carpenter will make you do is throw the ball over the plate. He's just not the kind of guy that comes out and is over anxious, even with a runner at second base. As for David Holmberg, you get down and count 3-1. There's no reason why you have to groove one right here. You throw the best pitch that you can on the corner that you think you're going to get an out. If you miss out of the zone, you've got first base wide open.
And you got another left-handed batter coming up who has certainly struggled more against left-handers than this left-handed batter. Well, he got a pitch to hit, and he hooks it foul. 3-2 on Carpenter. Remember last year, the Cardinals had one of the great seasons in the history of baseball, batting with runners in scoring position. This year they were brutal. That is up until about 10 days ago. They were batting .241 with runners in scoring position. Well, ever since the final days of August, they are hitting .400 with runners in scoring position, and they've won 8 of those 9 games since that streak began. 3-2 now on Carpenter. Challenged him, did Holmberg. Knocked down by Pena, and they get the out at first. That's a nice job by Holmberg and by Pena, coming right after Carpenter. Still no score.
Call 1-800-ELK Ohio, and it is the central race in the National League. Before the Cardinals went on that 8-1 run, you can see that they were in second place, a game and a half behind the Milwaukee Brewers. Then Milwaukee went right into the tank, and St. Louis took over. Now the split between St. Louis and Milwaukee is 5 full games. Pittsburgh has come in to take in second place, 4.5 games back, and that is all due to how well the Cardinals have played and how poorly the Brewers have played.
All right, Chris, I asked you this a while back, but now seemingly things have literally been flipped almost completely upside down in such a short amount of time. With the kind of lead the Cardinals have and the way they're playing right now, you never say, okay, they're going to win the division, but they certainly look like the team to beat. There's very little doubt about that.
They put themselves in that position.
Yes, they've gone out and earned it. Do you think for another year we're going to have, there's a fly ball in the left field, and that one caught at the warning track. Of course, last year you had the Reds and the Pirates that played in the one-game playoff. Do you believe we have another National League Central Division team that plays in the one-game playoff, if not 2?
Hard to predict that right now. I mean, right now it looks like that could be the case. It looks like that the first wild card team right now is the San Francisco Giants, and they're in pretty good shape right there. I think last time I saw that they were something like 4 or 5 games. 3.5 now in front of the next team in there, which would be the Pittsburgh Pirates. So yeah, I mean, it certainly is conceivable. Certainly very interesting for those, and the Reds would have something to do perhaps as to whether they would or not with all the games that are in the division remaining for the Reds. There's a wild card in the National League.
And
now.
I guess what I was getting to you was, you look at the Pirates, you look at Atlanta, you look at Milwaukee. Do any of those three teams stand out to you? Any one of the three?
No. I mean, I think they're all pretty well evenly matched, although I am very surprised that the Milwaukee Brewers went into such a deep slide. And sometimes when a team gets that out of the way and you've got a month of baseball left or nearly a month of baseball left, you get your act together again and you pick it up and then you can start playing the way you did earlier in the year. Now, whether the Brewers can do that or not, I don't know. But I think they're all pretty even teams from what I've seen.
Well, you mentioned the Brewers will be at home. They'll start in about 15 minutes from now. Opening game of a series against the Marlins from Miami. Pirates are scoreless in the bottom of the third at Philadelphia.
Now, what about you? Any of those teams seem like they're going to run away with it?
No, because I'm with you, having seen all of them a number of times this year. Although I will say, of those three teams, to me, the Pirates play with more of an edge about them than the other two. Now, we don't see the Braves a ton, as that one's off the end of the bat, a fly ball into left field. But I don't know, it just strikes me, the Pirates strike me as a team that, they were sort of like a lot of other clubs, 500, few games under, got on a nice run to put themselves in the position that they're in now. I really like their manager, the edge he brings to the team every single day, finding a way to challenge different players in different situations. We'll see how it plays out. It may not mean anything. And like you, the Reds will definitely have something to say about whether or not they will get in.
You look for motivation any way you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not playing a team that's in the race, you look for motivation, maybe selfish motivation. It's a salary drive for you to finish up the year strong, show some pride. But if you're playing a team on the other side of the field that has something to gain if they win, it gives you a little bit of an extra edge to play, even if you're a team that is 10 or 11 games back. And that's unfortunately where the Reds are right now, but it should give these guys a reason to play good, solid, hard-nosed baseball. And I think if nothing else, that's what Brian Price is looking for.
This is his second career at bat for Holmberg. It didn't last long. He's out on strikes. We go to the fourth. Scoreless, Reds and the Cardinals. Well, that is a beautiful picture. Looking from the Commonwealth right into downtown Cincinnati. Congratulations to the Bengals. They got off to a big start yesterday.
Yes,
boy, what a huge win that was.
A nail biter for a while, but boy, that's a great win to start, especially given the fact that the Ravens were so good in the month of September at home over the last few years. And a tough place for the Bengals to play over the last few years.
That's a tough place for everybody to play. Ravens been winning a lot of games, especially at that stadium, and getting the season opener inside your division on the road. Well done. Part of the order here for the Cardinals in the fourth inning. Holmberg took over for Dylan Axelrod, if you're just joining us. And by the way, Axelrod, word is from the clubhouse, strained his right oblique. So hopefully it's not a severe strain of the oblique, but that's the kind of injury, based on others that have had something like it, that takes a little while to get better. That one scalded into center field, a base hit by John Jay.
The problem with an oblique injury, that's when you pull a muscle in your side around your rib cage, and it's worse if it's down or behind your, like in your back area. Every time you turn, you just can't do a thing. I mean, you essentially have to shut it down, because every time you turn, it hurts. Every time you cough or sneeze, you might get yourself right back to start your starting point. This can be very aggravating. And they're more and more common in baseball, I think, than I've ever seen before.
Why do you think that is?
Any
guess?
I think maybe guys are just pushing the weights and that part of the conditioning to the limit.
You know, back in your day, Chris, there weren't many guys pumping the iron like they do now. I mean, these guys are physical specimens, many of them in baseball today. Do you think maybe some of that weight work is detrimental?
I can't really comment on whether it's detrimental or not, Tom. All you can go by, though, is the results of the rash of injury. Just take the number of Tommy John surgeries that have been performed over the last few years. Oh, yes, there's a radar gun showing the guys are throwing harder. Yes. Is there a reason why? Yeah, you probably have to be stronger to do that. You can work out to get stronger. But at some point, your body telling you maybe that's enough. There's always going to be a quest. And let's just take pitchers, for instance. There's always going to be a quest for pitchers that throw harder rather than softer because they're harder to hit. And if you begin that training as a younger player, you're getting stronger. You know, the rash of Tommy John injuries, even amongst college and high school, even earlier than that, kids have skyrocketed in the last few years. And a lot of that has to do with weight training.
That's good pitch right there on the fastball, knee high on the inside corner. Strikeout number 2 for Holmberg.
Yeah, to a guy like Matt Holliday who's really seeing the ball well. I like the fact that he's willing to come inside to a guy like Matt Holliday with this fastball, because if you only pitch to one part of the plate, they'll figure that out, and it'll be very difficult to get hitters out. You've got to move it around a little bit. And sometimes softer throwing left-handers like Holmberg are reluctant to go inside, but you've got to do it. I say softer throwing only because his fastball is around 88 or 89 instead of 95.
Holmberg, in each of his first 2 starts, his only 2 starts, wearing a Reds uniform this year. Neither one of them lasted very long. In fact, each of them lasted exactly 2 2/3 innings. So already tonight, he is bypassed that mark. He's recorded officially 3 innings of work now, working in relief of the injured Dylan Axelrod. One and 0 on Matt Adams, runner at first. 1 out, scoreless game. We're in the top of the 4th inning. Fastball up and in, quick throw, and diving back to the bag safely is Jay. Two-0 pitch on Adams.
Again, a fastball inside, not afraid to come right in there. You know, the Cardinals really are not a stealing ball club. I mean, you want to throw over every once in a while to keep them honest, but they're not a team that has very many stolen bases at all. In fact, their number 1 stolen base guy is their number 8 hitter, Colton Wong, who has 20 of them. Nobody else is in even double digits.
And that is something the Cardinals were not counting on when this year began. We told you earlier they had Peter Borges playing center field, a guy capable of stealing a ton of bases if he can get on. And they also had Colton Wong batting up closer to the top of the order. You may remember he began the year hitting in the 2-hole. And they were hoping both of those guys would give them at least a more dynamic offense. There's ball 4 up and into Adams. There are 2 on with 1 out. I mean, looking over all the numbers before he's getting ready for school, figuring out who he's going to pick that night.
I hear he's a pretty good numbers guy anyway.
Not bad. He's
nice
not bad at all.
Could we maybe have somebody in the Brenneman household who's not afraid to do math in public?
Well, his mother is very good at it. And that's where his math skills and his sister's math skills, thankfully, praise the Lord, the kids were able to find those skills from mom, or else they'd be in a world of hurt.
Now with a couple of runners on base, Mesoraco's out there, and you can even see the body language right there. You're flying open a little bit, wants you to get the ball down. You know, don't overthrow just because you've got a couple of guys on base right here. And the guy at the plate is very dangerous. Johnny Peralta, 20 home runs. That is a franchise record in St. Louis for shortstops.
One and oh the count on Johnny Peralta. And he took a little off there and got a strike.
Good pitch. Actually, when you throw that pitch, you wanted Peralta to swing at that, not take that pitch.
One ball and one strike. And a fastball is off the inside corner. Nowhere near the strike zone there, and now Holmberg pitching himself into some trouble. 3-1, as Chris mentioned, to a very dangerous hitter in Johnny Peralta. Peralta just picked up his career number 1,500th base hit over the weekend. He is one of only 600 players in the history of the game to reach that number of base hits in a career. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, where is that in relation to the total number of players that have played? Over 17,000 players have played in Major League Baseball history, and he is one of 600 to get to 1,500 or more hits. That's pretty good.
He chased ball 4 right there and did Holmberg a favor. So now Holmberg still looking for a ball maybe down to get a ground ball out of Peralta. Double play gets him out of the inning.
Runners go, and it is ball 4. Threw him a breaking ball on a 3-2 pitch to load him up.
Yeah, that looked like a pretty good pitch right there. We'll take another look at the pitch and see where it ended up. Maybe they just called it high. It was inside. It's one of those situations where, you know, the runners are going at the time. The catcher kind of jumps up in order to be able to get himself in a position to throw the runner out, and sometimes screens the umpire out a little bit. But that ball turned out to be inside, and Jeff Pico now out to try to settle him down here with the bases loaded.
And there a strike as they're loaded for Yadier Molina. Inning began with a base hit. Holmberg struck out Holiday, but has walked Adams and Peralta to load the bases in this scoreless game. Molina grounded out to Brandon Phillips his first time up, and boy, would Holmberg like another one of those right here and right now. That single to begin the inning was off the bat of Jay, and he's walked all the way to the third after free passes to Adams and Peralta. 2-1. Big time numbers for Molina in this ballpark against the Reds.
Well, he took a hack at that one and feels like he had a pitch that was just a hair late on. You know, is there any coincidence that the Cardinals began to play a whole lot better once they got Molina back? No. I mean, you get your star players back and you get them back healthy. Just goes to show you how important they are.
And that is strike 3 called, and Molina knew it. Boy, what a time to get Molina with the bases loaded and 1 out, and now 1 more out to go.
Little slider that goes all the way across the plate, starts outside, ends up inside. Molina may have read that as a breaking ball that was going to break a little bit more.
Well, now the rookie Taveras being grounded out to Zach Cozart, his first time up. Cardinals have him loaded, and it's ball 1 high. See, already 7 trips to the plate for this rookie right fielder. 1 hit in those 7 at bats with the bases loaded. Two and 0. Perfect location on that 2-0 fastball, catching the outside edge. You know, the other thing these Cardinals are playing for, not only to try to win their division, as you look at the location of this pitch, right on the nose. Well, Fox track says slightly off the corner, but called a strike by Chris Guccione. Oh boy, 3-1. Well, the Cardinals are only 2 games behind the Dodgers for the best record in the National League. And they are far better at home than they are on the road. Cardinals this season are under 500 away from Busch Stadium. 3-1 pitch. Popped up. Frazier in foul ground. Holmberg pitches in and then out of trouble. Well done. Chris Welsh was talking earlier. Something about this young man he likes. That'll be a 12:35 start on Thursday. 4-game series here. Reds still have the Cardinals for 3 more on the road. That will be a week from Friday. Reds are set to embark on their final road trip of the year, starting this weekend. Milwaukee, Chicago, and on to St. Louis. And the Reds will wrap up the regular season here against the Brewers and the Pirates. No score. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning, and Billy Hamilton a little bouncer down to Adams, and that's an easy play for out number 1. Well, for Red fan, or for Red, it's a home run off that Toyota sign tonight. A Reds fan. In tonight's case, Daryl Hurt will win this beautiful new Tundra on display at Great American Ballpark. Daryl from Corinth, Kentucky. You can register for your chance to win. Just stop by an upcoming game or visit your Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky dealer. Now, did I say that town correctly, or was I wrong there?
I think that you pronounce it Corinth.
Okay, thank you. Corinth. I beg your pardon.
You know, you pass that right on I-75 on your way to Lexington.
Really?
Yeah. It's that big water tower, got a big blue water tower right along the highway.
Well, I made that drive many, many times. But I failed to know the correct pronunciation. So Corinth, Kentucky. Thank you. Well, those in the Commonwealth can help Jeff Pecoro get me back for the wager I made against their beloved Wildcats over the weekend with that blue pie tomorrow. So in Corinth, maybe they'll enjoy that.
Give them just one more reason to tune in to Fox, Ohio.
I wish they'd just play that song during the hole at bat. Well, even if you're not a huge Sinatra fan, how do you not love just listening to that guy sing?
You're right.
Man, what a voice. And Frazier, a roller to Peralta. And Shelby Miller working on a one-hitter. And a 4, no score.
And Cooper wakes up, and all of a sudden, he's surprised even himself that he springs to life and has no problem getting up and feeding the youngster. In fact, he says he's getting about 6 hours of sleep a night now. And suddenly he says he has more energy. So I think Cooper has proved he's been getting too much sleep, if you can believe that, Tom.
Well, I got to tell you, Cooper obviously is a very, very good sleeper. So good for mom and dad. But 10 hours of sleep a night.
I can't remember those days.
No, I mean, it's such a, no kidding.
Now, ball players have, they've got a reputation for being late sleepers. You play a game at night, may go out after the game, have something to eat. Late when you get to bed and late when you get up. You roll out of bed, get a little, grab something to eat, and you head to the ballpark. 10 hours, I can't remember what that's like.
Now, I tell you who has maintained that through his playing career and now his broadcasting career as a Cowboy.
You're right.
He is the only guy I know that's a guy of our relative age. And I mean in any walk of life. I'm not talking about people who are involved in a traveling with a Major League Baseball team, or people that are accountants, or people that are custodians, or whatever it is that you do for a living. I don't know anyone of sort of our generation that gets the amount of sleep on a nightly basis during the course of a baseball season than does Jeff Brantley.
Well, he lives down there in Mississippi. Zach Cozart lives down there in Mississippi.
Oh.
Maybe there's something to that.
That's a very interesting observation. Swing and a miss. Now, the Cowboy is not getting that kind of sleep when he's at home.
Right.
Because he's got youngins running around that have to get up for school every day. But I'm going to tell you what now. When it comes to getting on the road during the baseball season, the big fella is getting some serious.
Now, I got to tell you, though, sometimes on the road, when we get up and play golf early in the morning, and we sometimes meet down the lobby at 6:30 a.m., he's rarely, if ever, late.
Oh, no, he's not going to be late.
But he will get back and get that power nap in.
And don't call him late for dinner.
He takes dinner to bed with him.
He does. From time to time, and he'll be the first to admit it, especially when it comes to, maybe a late night dessert. He has been known from time to time to fall asleep with a big old cup of ice cream right on the boiler.
Which becomes ice cream soup.
That's right. And he tells stories all the time about how he'll wake up in the middle of the night and all of a sudden there's like green stuff all over the bed, and he's wondering, well, what is it? Well, that was that mint chocolate chip.
Who's in charge of the laundry over there at the Brantley household anyway?
Well, he's got to be, no doubt about it, during the season. I don't know what happens when he gets down to Mississippi. Off the glove of Pena, and that'll go, I would imagine, as a base hit. We'll see. He had a dive to his right, and it is a hit for Matt Carpenter. That's his first hit in 3 at-bats.
Hit very sharply by Carpenter. He had one early in the ball game. In fact, he led the game off with a line drive to the left fielder. This time he hits it hard to Pena, tries to backhand it, and with 2 outs, the Cardinals reach a base runner. Holmberg has had one 1-2-3 inning. That was the second inning of this game. He was part of the first 1-2-3 inning in first.
For those of you just joining us, Dylan Axelrod left with a strained oblique after retiring the first batter of the game. Then he was pitching to this guy, John Jay, when he threw a pitch and had to walk off the mound. If you look at his left side, I mean his right side, and look at the right arm, just sort of the way has a slight dip and favors and leaning slightly that way. There's a tapper to the right side. I tell you what, Holmberg's done a nice job tonight. Really nice job. 4 2/3 innings. So Chris Welsh might be right about this guy after all. No runs, 3 hits, 5 left on base. Cardinals had him loaded with 1 out against Holmberg in the 4th inning. Holmberg got a big strikeout of Yadier Molina. And that one is ripped into left center field and will go to the wall. So be an extra base hit. And the first time the Reds have moved a runner to second base in a game tonight.
Well, it's almost like Devin Mesoraco was sitting back and waiting for a first pitch breaking ball. And he got one right there as Shelby Miller kind of hung it waist high. And Devin Mesoraco, who's been swinging a hot bat, gets it going here with a leadoff double.
Now Brandon showing bunt. And takes high for ball 1. Shows bunt again, pulls the bat away, and a breaking ball, this time a strike. One on Brandon Phillips, and Miller delivers, and Brandon a tapper to the left side. This is not going to advance a runner at the very minimum to third. 1 out in the inning. And now you're looking for a hit. Rather than perhaps just a ground out or a fly ball, Jay Bruce bounced into a double play his only time up tonight. Started on a ground ball to the second baseman. You can see Shelby Miller rushes it up there now, 95 miles per hour with his fastball. His control has been very good tonight.
Well, tonight it has been, but normally it has not been.
Well, we brought up before the game started, he's issued more walks than any Cardinal pitcher this year. That one's in the air down the left field line, and a long run for Holiday. The Reds had a runner at second with nobody out, and he is now standing there with 2 outs in the inning.
A lot of that has to do, Tom, with doing little things. I mean, we say that, and it's such a tired phrase, you know, do the little things, you win big ball games. But, man, getting a runner over to third base with nobody out, when your team is struggling offensively, just opens up a lot of opportunities. It changes the way a pitcher goes about the at-bat to the next guy. Chris Heisey had a pretty good swing at him last time. He got a ball a little bit on the end of the bat and ended up flying out to left field, but still swinging the bat much better now, especially off the bench.
And this one has popped up. So a leadoff double left out there in wasteland. Number of other attractions around down there, including a Buffalo Wild Wings. There's some other spots down there. You can't miss it right off 275 East. How about these numbers from David Holmberg tonight, Chris?
What a turnaround from the couple of times that he's had the ball on the mound earlier on this year. Comes in as an emergency starter, and it's always tough to do that. I mentioned that when he was warming up on the field. But he warmed up pretty quickly like a reliever, and he went right to business. Struck out John Jay on the first pitch that he threw. Retired Matt Holliday for a 1-2-3 first. Had a 1-2-3 second. Worked out of a jam, and he's going to have to work out of another jam.
But you had made the comment, you know, when he first came into the game, you know, you said, I have a feeling about Holmberg here tonight. What did you mean by that?
That's a feeling that if he can get his breaking stuff working, and I mean, he can pinpoint that changeup, he's going to get a lot of ground balls, and that ground ball by Holliday finds a hole. But I think he's the type of pitcher that you have to see for a long period of time before you make a decision on it, because his stuff isn't going to light you up. He does not a radar gun scout's dream by any means, so you have to watch him a long time before you make a decision.
Gets ahead 0-2. And Chris, it makes you wonder now. We didn't see David Holmberg pitch, you know, when he was a teenager, and you mentioned how young he still is, and he is really young.
23.
And he just turned 23. And you know, you got to believe the Chicago White Sox, when they were scouting him, probably you know, watched him so many times, and he would grow on you the more and more you watched him. And maybe the Diamondbacks felt the same way when they made the trade to acquire him before coming eventually in the deal to the Reds.
Well, he was the second-round draft pick.
Yep.
Of that same draft that we talked about with Mike Leake and Shelby Miller and Steven Strasburg. So there was a lot of talent in that draft, and you're right. Somebody more than just one scout down in Florida that saw him pitch down in Port Charlotte thought he was good, because you send cross-checkers down there. You send a lot of people to take a look at somebody who's going to be a second-round pick. Nice breaking ball right there. Gets a strikeout out of Matt Adams. So anytime a guy comes up like Holmberg and he gets knocked around a little bit, you know, you don't want to rush to judgment, because he is only 23. If he'd gone to college, he probably wouldn't be in the big leagues right now. He'd only be 1 year or two in the minor leagues. He don't sign out of there until probably 21 years old. And depending on the severity of that injury to Dylan Axelrod, he may get another chance to get on the mound as a starter.
That ball hit very hard into left field, and Heisey makes a really nice play. Boy, that ball stung off the bat of Johnny Peralta. Had a lot of topspin on it. And I mean, Heisey went and got it right now. Well done by Heisey.
He goes back on the ball very well, Heisey does. Very athletic guy. Runs well. Got a beat on that. That's not an easy play at all. Not only sinking from the overspin, but also kind of hooking away from him.
Certainly Holmberg appreciates that effort by Heisey. So now one more out to get. And this is a guy who arguably has been the biggest single out of the game for Holmberg tonight. And he's going to get him again. How about Holmberg? Chris Welsh said, I have a feeling about this guy tonight. And I'll be doggone, he is right on the nose. Ray St. Clair Roofing right here on your exclusive home of Reds baseball, Fox Sports Ohio. Tomorrow, Reds Live will begin at 6:30, so tune in for that. And then it will be Mike Leake against Michael Wacha. Wacha making just his 17th start of the year. Had a lot of time on the DL. Very talented young right-hander. As is Mike Leake.
In his last start, Wacha only pitched 3 innings, coming back from that shoulder injury. So they're bringing him along slowly, hoping that he gets to full strength by the end of the regular season and into the Cardinal playoffs.
No score, last in the 6th inning, and the batter is Zach Cozart. That's off the end of the bat. A little pop up in the short left field. That's easy for Peralta. 1 pitch and 1 out. We're going to get a pinch hitter now for David Holmberg, who threw the ball brilliantly here tonight. And high fives, you better believe he earned those here in this one. Well, what an outstanding effort.
That's got to make him feel so good, too. I mean, you feel like you're just a forgotten guy. You go out, you have a couple of starts, you get beat around, and you know you're a better pitcher than what those 2 starts earlier did. I mean, 5 innings, 12 hits, 11 runs, home runs, balls hit all over the place, and you're thinking to yourself, I just need to get the ball again. I need to show these guys that I can pitch. And he had a chance tonight, and he seized that opportunity, did a nice job.
Saw those numbers, 5 2/3. He walked a couple. They came in back-to-back batters in the 4th inning when he loaded the bases, and he single had started that inning. But he struck out Yadier Molina looking, and then got Taveras on a pop-up and foul ground to Frazier. So in a day and age when a lot of us tend to get a wee bit impatient, to say the least, very good advice from my partner up here in the booth tonight. Chris Welsh talking about how sometimes with some guys, you know, maybe you don't want to have a rush to judgment if they're not one of those guys that's going to be throwing 95, 97 miles per hour. And that's not the case with Holmberg. So good for him indeed. That's 94 up around the letters, and Lutt's not going to catch up to that. 2 away in the inning, and that is only the 3rd strikeout of the game by Shelby Miller. Miller, for a guy who throws as hard as he does, you would not consider him to be a strikeout pitcher. He's thrown 159 innings and has just slightly better than 100 strikeouts.
Well, his strikeout ratio this year is down. Last year was at 23% strikeouts. Now it was 15.7. His walks are up this year.
Doesn't get any easier than that. Bunted right back to the mound. It's 1-2-3 for Miller. Still no score. Game 1 of this 4-game series. Axelrod, the second batter of the game, strained his right oblique and gave way to David Holmberg. More on him in a moment. Shelby Miller, meanwhile, has only surrendered a total of 2 base hits. He has struck out 3 and surprisingly has not walked a batter. Of course, the Reds have not given him a chance to walk a batter. His pitch count still in the 50s. But the big story tonight, and Chris talked about this young man at length, is David Holmberg.
Well, when he pitched out of that jam in the 4th inning by striking out Molina, then getting Oscar Taveras to pop out for the 3rd out, leaving the bases loaded, you could just see his confidence soar, and threw the ball much differently than he did his first couple of times out. He locked in a scoreless game, and the Reds will go to the bullpen and bring in a new pitcher, Manny Parra, another left-hander.
Parra will be facing the latter 3rd in the Cardinal lineup. They have the right-handed batting. Well, actually, they're going to send up a pinch hitter. Taveras is a left-handed batting, and they're going to bring on right-handed batting. Randall Grichuk, backup outfielder, minor leaguer they brought up from the minor leagues when the rosters expanded, and a breaking ball by Parra misses. 1 ball and 1 strike. That ball shot into right center field. It's on its way to the wall. And that'll be a pinch hit double in this scoreless game to begin the top half of the 7th inning.
Well, Grichuk is another one of those we talked about this 2009 draft. He was a #1 draft pick of the Angels, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and he lines this ball into the right center field gap, gets his foot down, stays back, and that's a pretty good swing.
Well, one would assume that Colton Wong will be up there to bunt. Miller's spot is due up next. Although looking down at that Cardinal bullpen, it doesn't appear as though they have any action down there. So they're going to let Colton Wong swing away, it appears, with a pitcher spot due up next. Well, this is somewhat of a surprise, even though Miller is throwing the ball so well here tonight. Scoring chances have been few and far between. Tapper in the hole. The runner's coming. Here's a throw to third. One hop, not going to be in time. That'll be an infield hit, and the Cardinals have them on the corners.
The wild throw really right there, and the only thing that Todd Frazier could do is just try to field the ball, not worry about trying to get a tag down. If that ball is on the money, they've got this guy, but looks like it slipped out of Cozart's hand, and all hands will be safe. So that puts a different spin on entirely the rest of this inning here, with now the pitcher coming up with first and third, nobody out. He will be up there to bat.
And Miller's been a very good bunter this year. He has 10 sacrifices. Brian Price will make his way to the mound.
Been a good hitter.
Yeah, not bad. What, 8 out of 43 on the year.
That makes him 186 from pitcher standpoint. That's not too bad.
Well, the Reds have action out in their bullpen. And you have left-handed batters in Carpenter and Jay to follow the pitchers. So you certainly believe he's going to stay with Manny Parra if everything's okay with Parra, and Parra will remain in the game.
Remember, the Reds have one other left-hander now, that with the addition of David Holmberg out there, along with Parra, you have Ryan Denick, who we saw make his major league debut when the Reds were in Baltimore.
Well, after you have that meeting on the mound, Devin Mesoraco going to make sure one more time that everybody's on the same page. Very, very good speed on the bases for the Cardinals here. On the corners, nobody out. Scoreless game. We're in the 7th inning. And bunted foul for strike one.
Looks like he tried to lay that down the right side of the field and just angled his bat wrong. I mean, he got it out there. He's doing everything else right. Standing in the front of the batter's box, keeping the bat level or the head of the bat above the knob.
One and one to Shelby Miller. And again, bunts a ball foul, and Parra in front at 1 ball and 2 strikes. That had the look of a safety squeeze because the runner at third was 3/4 of the way down the line when contact was made on that ball. halfway down the line anyway. A good bunt and a safety squeeze is almost impossible to defend with any speed at all at third base. One ball and 2 strikes. Gets a bunt down. Runner's going to stay at third. Parra will play to first. Give Miller to sacrifice his 11th on the year. And the Cardinals have runners at second and third with 1 out in the inning.
I find that kind of funny, really, because Miller had problem in that at bat with getting a bunt down on a low outside fastball. He jabbed at both of them, fouled them both off that he tried, and that time you come right back on the inner part of the plate with a breaking ball where he would obviously feel a lot more comfortable, and he gets a bat head on it, drops it down, and gets a successful sacrifice. I call that giving into the hitter right there, rather than you're in the driver's seat. Hey, if you show me that you can't bunt an outside fastball, I'm going to keep going out there until you show me that you can.
Well, now a tall order here for Parra against Matt Carpenter. Infield in, no score. Runners at second and third, 1 out. We're in the 7th inning. And Parra going to work. Fastball misses. Carpenter's lined out hard to left. Grounded out to first. And had an infield hit his last time up. See his numbers with runners in scoring position. That's better than 20 points, better than his overall season average. So Carpenter, one of the few Cardinals who really has held up his end of the bargain. Batting in such situations this year, until recently, as we pointed out earlier, they've been on a roll lately. One-0 pitch. And that will drop in, a base hit. 1 run scores. Here comes Wong. Slide. He's safe. 2-0 on a broken bat single by Matt Carpenter.
Brian Price is looking at Devin Mesoraco to see if indeed they did get this guy at the plate. Good throw by Jay Bruce. And that is very close. I imagine that they'll have Rob Coughlin in the video room review that and give the thumbs up or thumbs down to Jay Bell to see if they're going to want to ask for a review. I think he's got his hand in there. That's a good slide by Wong. Just a heads up play.
So Carpenter knocks in a pair, giving him 57 of those on the season. And the inning will continue for the center fielder John Jay. Strike 1. So Holmberg goes 5 2/3 innings, allows 4 hits and no runs. Parra has faced 4 batters, allowed 3 hits and a pair of runs. Saw Sam LeCure getting loose in the bullpen a short while ago. He's ready if they need him. By the way, the 5 2/3 relief outing by Holmberg tonight, as that one is 2-1, is the longest, and boy do we remember this game as though it were yesterday, on May the 25th in 2011. That was that 19-inning game in Philadelphia. Carlos Fisher threw 5 2/3 innings in that one.
That's a game in which Wilson Valdez ended up the winning pitcher for the Phillies.
That's exactly right. Boy, Fisher, remember that night? He really stepped up for the Reds
He
that
did.
night. Guy had been pitching in short relief in Louisville. They brought him up. He had pitched 2 or 3 innings, I think, 2 or 3 days before, and then went 5 2/3 innings that night. I think he was a losing pitcher in that game.
Well, you know what also shows you, though, Tom, that there really isn't any more in a normal bullpen. Now, in September, it's a different deal because you've got call-ups. But in a normal bullpen, there is no such thing anymore as a long reliever.
So that's going to be all for Parr. He faces 5 batters, and the 4 that were trying to get on got on. He'll leave with 2 on, 1 out, trailing 2-0. Sam LeCure trots in from the bed. We'll take a timeout. Back in a moment. 2 on, 1 out in the Cardinal 7th inning. They lead 2-0. Matt Holliday, the batter, and now on to face him is right-hander Sam LeCure. Holliday is flying to left, struck out looking, and singled to left his last time up. And LeCure going to work. Ball 1 away. Pirates are winning their game, although just by a run. 2-1 in the 6th at Philadelphia. And the Marlins are teeing off on the Brewers. They have scored 6 times and still are batting in the top half of the 3rd inning in Milwaukee. Atlanta, meanwhile, trailing the Nationals 2-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning. Atlanta, the Pirates, Milwaukee, all duking it out for that 2nd wild card spot in the National League. Boy, that one left out over the plate, and Holliday livid with himself that he fouled that one back. Swung the bat in frustration. Talked about how cold Holliday was to begin the year, especially with a long ball. Only 5 of them in the first 81 games of the year, but he's come on strong. He's hit 4 in the last week. Brian Price laid it out there pretty pure and simple, and maybe Jim Day can add to this because he is frequently there before the games and after the games, especially on the road. Comments made by Price. You know, you look ahead to next year in the Reds starting rotation. You know, looking ahead to next year, and depending on what they do, and you know, will they make moves? Do they feel like they can afford to keep everybody? They have everybody under control, if you will, for next year, although guys are in line for a big bump arbitration-wise, guys like Latos and Leake. Anyway, if everybody came back healthy, and he already went on record as saying Simon projects to be in the rotation. And Price said very clearly this bullpen has got to get it together. We have been so spoiled over the last handful of years. Reds have had, if not the best, one of the best bullpens in all of Major League Baseball, and that has not been the story this year. Jim, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, he's gone on record saying nothing is guaranteed. They brought basically the same group back this year, but he's let them know that next year is not a given, that they're going to be a part of this bullpen. And one thing that he has said, though, is Jumbo Diaz has pretty much, barring anything unforeseen, has pitched his way onto the 2015 roster. So there's one guy that is on the radar. Everyone else outside of Chapman, now that they've traded Broxton, on notice that it is not guaranteed you are going to be in that bullpen.
Of course, the one thing the guy who just left the game has in his favor, Manny Parras, he has another year left on a 2-year contract. Sean Marshall, another guy. I mean, that is a guy the Reds have really missed, and it's been the better part of 2 years. Three-and 2 on Matt Holliday. Runners will not go, and it's swung on and fouled back out of play. If I'm not mistaken, Marshall has a year left on his contract as well, does he not?
I believe you're right.
So there might be a lot of spots up for grabs, but we know frequently if guys are healthy, money talks, and, well, you know what walks. And if Parra and Marshall are expecting big paydays looking ahead to next year, both of them figure to be in that bullpen. You see, they've only had a chance to watch Marshall after 73 games his first year, a very good year. 31 total games spanning all of 24 1/3 innings the last 2 years. Runners go, and it's in the air, and Phillips out to get it for the second out of the inning.
And that's one of the things, Tom, that baseball people look at a fair amount of time when they start looking at relievers, and they ask themselves, all right, well, how many years in a row can a reliever pitch in, say, 60 or 70 games before you simply wear out your arm? I mean, you take care of starting pitchers much more, it seems like, than you do relievers, who are more or less dispensable.
And that is why,
disposable.
Chris, you and I talked about this all the time. It's why I could never understand why. And you explained to me why. Because he didn't do the great job as a closer. But I was always mystified why fans were so hard at times on David Weathers. Go back and look at that career and how good that guy was year after year after year. Where have you gone, David Weathers? Inning began with Parra. LeCure does his job, retires the only batter he faces in Holiday. And now we get a look at the other lefty you mentioned, Chris Welsh, Ryan Denick.
Yeah, made his major league debut in Baltimore, so he is now only in his 4th ball game career-wise. This is the kind of situation that you bring him in for a purpose. Really 2 purposes for Brian Price. Number 1, of course, try to get out of the inning, get a very tough left-hander Matt Adams out. But number 2, you want to get a little measure of Ryan Denick, because going forward, this is the type of situation you expect to use him in. You come in and get one left-hander out.
Two and oh to count on Matt Adams. And that one fouled off out of play, third base side, 2 balls and a strike. Two and two to Adams. Cardinals have scored the first 2 runs of the game in this 7th inning. And both of them so far charged to Manny Parra. The 2 runners on base are his responsibility as well. And Denick trying to get that final out. And boy, if it wasn't for bad luck, the Reds wouldn't have any luck at all. You get a strikeout swinging, but the runner will reach base safely, and they're loaded. Well, you brought in the left-hander specifically to face the left-hander, and now another pitching change will be made by Brian Price. We'll tell you about the new hurler when we now a right-hander who becomes The fourth pitcher used by the Reds in this inning, trying to get that precious final out. And it's Pedro Villarreal.
Well, he's either going to get it out or give up a run because there's nowhere to put Johnny Peralta coming to the plate.
Two away in the inning. The bases are loaded. You have Carpenter down at third, Colt John Jay at second base, and you have Matt Adams at first, and a strike one to Peralta. 0 for 2, lined out to left, had an extra base hit taken away his last time up. Reds have not had a pitcher register a strikeout without officially recording an out, as Sam LeCure just did, or rather Denick just did. There's a Tapper foul since Anerio del Rosario on May the 24th in 2010.
Boy, who keeps track of that kind of stuff?
Joe Luckham, our statistician supreme. He's all over it. All over it.
Oh, we miss him when he's gone.
Joel took the family on a nice little trip along the eastern seaboard. He had a chance to see Camden Yards while the Reds were there last week. Unfortunately, he picked the only bad weather night we had. That's when we had the rain delay to start the game. We had, what, 2 batters into the game, and the rain came for 2 hours.
Well, he got to watch the Camden Yard grounds crew.
How are you at have that head on a swivel? 0-2 on Peralta. Swung on, hit off the end of the bat. Well, you were.
They'd like to have mine on a stick.
You were really going out of your way to talk to some of those guys over the next couple of days after wearing them out.
All in good fun. Hey, they
didn't think it was that fun.
They do know their way around a Mexican buffet like nobody's business. We'll just leave it at that.
One ball and 2 strikes. For those of you that don't remember, or you weren't with us, that was the night they were serving Mexican food up in the press area, and the grounds crew, they were all eating dinner. They were getting after pretty good, and you wore them out for when the rains came, not getting the tarp out fast enough.
Well, it didn't look like the rain was going to come. It probably surprised them, and when they did try to get it out, it got stuck.
Gone swinging. Nice job by Villarreal. So he's had a couple of good outings here lately. Cardinals get a couple of runs and lead 2-0.
The big story was the ceremony at Yankee Stadium honoring Derek Jeter. That is Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time in my imagination. It was a who's who of people. Cal Ripken Jr., Jeter's idol growing up, former Red Paul O'Neill there, David Cohn, Tino Martinez, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, Joe Torre, just to name a few. It was a 45-minute ceremony in pure Jeter fashion. After he spoke, he's like, let's get on with this. We got a game to play. That's really all he cared about. Now, Jeter leads the team onto the field before each and every game, and he did yesterday as well. However, they let him run out by himself. He didn't know it until he looked back. So a classy move by his teammates. And also Tom and Chris, they did not retire his number 2 yesterday, nor did they put a monument out there in Monument Park, because of course, you have one old big ceremony. You got to have 2 more for those, so you can expect number 2 to be retired for sure.
For sure is right. Thank you, Jim Day. I had a buddy of mine who was at that ceremony over the weekend and said it was just an incredible place to be. Like, of all the World Series titles, all the big hits, big plays, great moments. Like Derek Jeter, he's already said next year he's going to get away from it all. You're not going to watch him stepping into the broadcast booth. Of course, he can always change his mind. Maybe he will change his mind. But said he wants to get away from everything for a while and do a whole lot of whatever it is he wants to do. Two and two the count on Pena, and he's gone swinging. That is only the 63rd pitch of the night for Shelby Miller, and we're one out into the 7th inning.
Well, that would explain why he still has a little giddy up on that fastball. Late life is one way the hitters put it when they see him. It looks like it comes out of his hand at a certain speed and then all of a sudden accelerates. Look at all those single-digit pitch counts the Reds had. And, you know, this is really amazing because here's a guy that throughout the entire season, he's walked 71 batters in 159 innings. He's almost averaging, more than 4 batters per 9 innings. And the Reds really have not given him a chance yet. Now, to his credit, he's thrown a lot of first pitch strikes. I mean, not really a ton of first pitch strikes. I'm told 14 and 21. Not bad, but not lights out. But he pitched a very good game his last time out. And when you get a guy like this kind of an arm on a little bit of a roll where he finds his release point in his breaking ball and can spot the fastball, that's what they're looking for. The Cardinals are going down the stretch. You may remember it was 2012 when he first came up to the major leagues that Shelby Miller made his first major league start against the Reds. It was October 3rd, and he pitched 6 innings of 1 hit, 7 strikeout baseball.
That went down the right field line, but there to get it for the 2nd out. And the first 2 retired here in the Reds' 7th inning. Grichuk stayed in the game, by the way, to play right field after he hit for Taveras. And you may remember his double started that 2-run rally, came up as a pinch hitter against Manny Parra. Now, the Cardinals every year seem to have a lot going on with their pitching staff in terms of moving pieces and moving parts. Maybe not every year, but you remember the one year they used, 8 different closers before they finally settled on Jason Mott when they went into the World Series. And they've had other years where starters have been in and out of the rotation. They've had that again this year. I mean, even the closers saying last year they had Mujica was their closer the entire year. Trevor Rosenthal did not get his first save until the last week of the regular season. And yet they go right in, and next thing you know, they're playing in another league championship series. And now here this year, they go out and they make big deals when everybody thinks they need offense. They make big deals to get 2 starting pitchers in John Lackey and Justin Masterson. And with Waka coming back, Masterson is now in the bullpen. He's not even in their starting 5 anymore. So that gives you an idea of the kind of depth the Cardinals have when they have all hands on deck as far as pitching is concerned. I mean, a lot of teams, they trade for Justin Masterson, and they're running him out there every 5 days no matter what.
Well, it would be no matter what here in St. Louis because he has not pitched well at all for the Cardinals since being traded over.
That one pulled foul by Devin. He had a double to left center field his last time up.
Yeah, the other thing the Cardinals have done, Tom, really since 2011, and that was the first time that, well, not the first time, but they won the World Series in 2011, but they have probably played as many games throughout the course of the season and postseason as any team in baseball since then.
Well, they played more, period. You're right.
So because they won the World Series in 11. Now we'll talk about it next inning.
Well, they played in at least the LCS in every year of the last 3 years.
And they know how to win late in the year.
Couple of mighty good ones right there. We will not see Adam Wainwright in this series. He had a complete game win yesterday. We will see Johnny in this series. Our IGS bringing the energy. Cueto and Wainwright, two in this series already with 17 wins, joining Clayton Kershaw and Madison Bumgarner. Look at that ERA by Kershaw. Wow. All those guys are wow. But 1-7 is just extraordinary.
It really is. I mean, he's like a robot.
But can he get it done this year in the playoffs? This Cardinal team beat him twice last year. So now Villarreal will start an inning clean. He came on with the bases loaded and 2 outs to fan Peralta. Cardinals got both of their runs off Manny Pare in the 7th inning. So here we are in the 8th, and it's a 2-0 ball game. On Yadier Molina, hitless tonight. Grounded to second, struck out looking with the bases loaded back in the 4th inning against David Holmberg and tapped out to Holmberg. That was a final out recorded by the Reds left-hander. And for those of you just joining us tonight, boy, what a job he did. 5 2/3 innings of 4-hit shutout baseball in relief of the injured Dylan Axelrod. Pirates starting to blow it open in Philadelphia, a 5-1 lead there. Atlanta on the board, but trails by a run in DC 2-1. And Miami still kicking around Milwaukee, but a long way to go in that one. 6-2 Marlins in front. Brandon Phillips, and that's the way it starts here in the 8th. Well, as you can continue to tweet your photos using hashtag #OhioFanPhoto. Let's take a look at our fan photo of the game tonight, brought to you by AT&T. Out in the outfield, very nice shot. Thank you, Eric. Two of his favorite ladies enjoying a beautiful afternoon at the ballpark. Boy, that ball smoked by Grichuk again. He had to double and scored the first run in that 2-run 7th inning. I mean, those two balls are stung.
Well, he really winds up, doesn't he? Gets that bat back, kind of lifts his back elbow up and just drops the head.
Cardinals only had a total of 6 base runners through the first 6 innings of this game. They had 4 hits, and Holmberg walked 2 batters. They now have 6 base runners in an inning and a third against the Reds bullpen here tonight. 4 of those 6 reaching against Parra. He allowed 3 hits and a walk, and was charged with both runs in the game. Well, they have the right-hander Pat Neshek getting ready in the bullpen. You have the pitcher spot Shelby Miller due up next. And Colton Wong with 1 out in the batting and a fastball away. 1-0 on Colton Wong. Broken bat flare into center, and Billy will track it down. 1 away. Or 2 out, I beg your pardon. Molina lined out to begin the inning. Mike Matheny is trying to get this Cardinal team to the playoffs for what would be the 3rd straight time since he took over this franchise after Tony La Russa led them to a World Series title and then retired as manager of the Cardinals. Matheny had him in the League Championship Series his first year, got him to the World Series a year ago. Shelby Miller will bat after all, and a breaking ball away from him. 1 ball and 1 strike. Miller has pitched brilliantly here tonight. He's only allowed 2 hits. A single by Brandon Phillips with 1 out to center field in the 2nd inning. A leadoff double to Devin Mesoraco in the 5th, and that's all. No walks, 4 strikeouts. 1-1. And a fastball is high. Reds and Cardinals will be here for 3 more, and then the Reds will only have 1 more homestand remaining here in 2014. Of night games tomorrow and Wednesday, and an afternoon till 12:35 on Military Appreciation Day on Thursday. That ball hit hard, but Bruce is there, and the inning is over. Bottom of the 8th. Reds are only down 2-0. Top of the 8th, and he's out there obviously on the mound here in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, he has been ultra efficient with his pitches, and we'll show you some of those pitches on our Mazda pitch by pitch. He has not walked a batter tonight. He has struck out 4, has had a fastball that he's dialed up there anywhere between 92 to 95 miles an hour. Got a double play when he needed it out of Jay Bruce early in the ball game. And he's really mixed his pitches up quite well. For a guy that has had control problems all year long, he has shown none of that tonight. Our Mazda pitch by pitch. And there is a line for Miller. 7 innings of 2-hit shutout baseball. Only 76 pitches here. Pitching now in the bottom of the 8th inning.
And that's what 22 batters he has faced in the game tonight. Is that right? Yep. And 76 pitches.
Well, he's had 6 3-batter innings. Not all 1, 2, 3 with a double play in the second, but I still call it 1, 2, 3 when it's a 3-batter inning.
Yep. Well, one of the guys who's reached against him leads things off, and that'll be Brandon Phillips. He had a single with one away into center field in front of that double play ground ball off the bat of Jay Bruce. Cardinals well aware that the Pirates are winning their game and the Brewers are losing their game. You can rest assured they're taking a peek out at that board in left field. When you're playing like the Cardinals are playing right now, that's that old adage about the horse beginning to sniff the barn. I mean, you're not there yet because it's still so early in September, just starting now our second week. So I mean, it's more than conceivable a team could lose a division championship with the lead the Cardinals have right now. But their confidence is probably at a season high, especially after rolling right through Milwaukee over the weekend, and that one bounced into center field. So now all of a sudden the Reds will send the tying run to the plate. And it looks like Mike Matheny's going to come get Shelby Miller. Not going to take a chance of perhaps this one sneaking away from him. 3 hits in 7+ innings tonight by Miller. Pat Neshek will take over in relief. For Kevin Goheen from FoxSportsOhio.com on Twitter at FSOhio_K Goheen. For the latest news and stories on the Reds. There's Kevin to the far right. He's all over everything that is Reds, and for that matter, everything all over the state of Ohio.
He's had a lot to write about over the weekend. It's a lot of college football happenings in the state of Ohio. This is really an odd move if you look at it from a baseball book perspective. The Cardinals have 6 left-handers in their bullpen available. Yeah, Mike Matheny will go with the right-hander, Pat Neshek.
How about that? 68 miles per hour. And no hitter is looking for that on the first pitch from a guy coming out of the bullpen. Now, he may not get another one in this at bat 68, but you're definitely not looking for that on the first pitch. Comes back at 91.
Watch Neshek now. He's going to go to his hat a couple of times as he kind of gets a grip on that baseball. Wasn't too all that much long ago that the Cardinals made a big deal about a little spot on the top of Bronson Arroyo's cap. Remember that controversy?
Sure. There's a guy I certainly hope, I know we're all really hoping, I'm speaking for all Reds fans, and certainly those of us who are fortunate enough to be around him. You hope that Bronson Arroyo comes back at 100% full strength next year. He'll be pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks, had never missed a start in his professional career until this season.
Had Tommy John surgery, and I would imagine that he's probably good for another 10 years now.
He might be, knowing him. Flip that one up there at 70, and Bruce way out in front. And that'll be a pop up to right, one away in the inning, and Heisey coming up. You know, we talked about it before. If the Cardinals should get you know, all the way to the World Series, and the American League has home field advantage in the World Series. Well, they only have to look around their dugout for blame. 2 Cardinal pitchers gave up all the runs in the All-Star game to the American League. Adam Wainwright and the man on the mound, Pat Neshek. One away, and Heisey the batter. Strike one. That Cozart has been called back into the Reds dugout. Jack Hanahan will come up and bat for him. One on Heisey. And again, fouled back over the screen and out of play.
Well, I had a pretty good cut that time.
Logan Ondrusek, the right-hander. Aroldis Chapman, the left-hander. Just in case, getting loose down in that Reds bullpen. Reds have gone through Axelrod for 1 out. Holmberg 5 2/3 outstanding innings out of the bullpen. 4-hit shutout baseball. Double play ball all the way here, and that's the way it's going to end in the Reds' 8th inning. So Neshek gets the job done. We're on our way to the 9th. Cardinals in front 2-0. About Pete Rose, and you know, will baseball find a way to reinstate Rose? How much participation will he have in all the All-Star game festivities? The 14th day of July.
There's that number again.
Interesting, is it not?
I'm not sure if I would go that far. Call it interesting. It will be interesting, though, everything around the All-Star game, especially as it relates to Pete Rose, if there is anything to relate to there. Well, we've seen a lot of those line drives, running catches by outfielders tonight.
Let's take a look at our John Morrell hot dog play of the game, and the base hit, broken bat single off the end of the bat by Carpenter, but the Reds have the infield drawn in, and he just dumped it into right field. Driving in so far, the only 2 runs of this game are John Morrell hot dog play of the game.
You know, that's a play right there, Tom, and it would be great to look back on it again. That's a play right there that, under the old rule where a catcher could block the base, there's a good chance that that's an out in favor of the Reds, because Mesoraco would have been easily be able to put his leg in the way of the runner, because the throw was right on the money, and he probably would have been able to keep Colton Wong from getting to the plate there and recorded it out in the old days before this year, when you're not allowed to block the plate without the ball. And very doubtful that Wong would have tried to run him over.
We're talking about this Reds bullpen, and we heard from Jim Day about some of the comments that Brian Price made about guaranteed spots or not guaranteed spots. Put this in perspective for a minute. The Cardinals bullpen this year, and really overall, it has not been anywhere near the bullpen they thought they were going to have when the year began. Rosenthal has been good, but he's been shaky through streaks during the year. Carlos Martinez, a primary right-handed setup guy, has not pitched well most of the year, has spent part of the season in the setup role. Kevin Segras, their dominant left-hander from last year, has virtually been a non-factor this year due to injury and ineffectiveness. That went off the body of Villarreal and will dribble into right field. On his way to third is Wong, and hopefully Villarreal is all right. That was a hard hit one-hopper off the bat of Holiday.
Well, I don't know where that got him, but he was wincing right from the get-go. Looks like at the top of the forearm. Or you just try to cover up and hope you get some glove on it.
Meanwhile, John Jay going first to third easily. They're going to take Holiday out of the game. Earlier we saw the assistant trainer Stevie Bauman go out, and now it's the head trainer Paul Lassard to look at the right arm of Villarreal. Pedro's going to try to stay in there. We're starting to talk about the bullpens. The Cardinal bullpen for the season has 19 losses. And bear in mind now, this has been a rotation that has been a starting rotation. That one thrown all the way to the screen. He's looking for another ball. But it's a Cardinal starting rotation that has been in disarray. So they brought guys from the bullpen into the starting rotation. Yet their bullpen has a total of 19 losses on the year. The Reds bullpen since the All-Star break has 14 losses just since the break.
Well, since the All-Star break, the Reds and the Texas Rangers are tied with having the worst two records in baseball. They've only won 16, they've lost 32. So the bullpen has spread it just about equally with the starting rotation as well.
Well, Villarreal tried to give it a go on a couple of pitches, and now he's going to leave the game. We certainly hope he's all right. He was doing a good job here tonight.
Now, just like David Holmberg, because of an injury to the pitcher before, he'll have as much time as he wants to warm up. Logan Ondrusek will, and while he does that, we will say happy birthday to a young lady who made her visit out to Great American Ballpark over the weekend prior to her birthday. Her son Mike brought her out, and want to wish Ann Murray a happy 82nd birthday. And if I'm a day late on that, I'm sorry, but I think it's today. And thanks for coming out and visiting with us, and hope you have a great birthday, and hope your son Mike continues to take such good care of you.
No doubt about it. Hey, and by the way, we'd also like to send out a happy anniversary, 65th anniversary. Earl and Grace Howard from Chattaroy, West Virginia. So Earl and Grace Howard, happy 65th anniversary. That is wonderful. God bless you both. So Logan Ondrusek comes on. Cardinals have him on the corners with one away, leading 2-0. We're in the top of the 9th inning. Second Reds pitcher to leave this game is Villarreal with an injury. Axelrod on the second batter of the game. And now Villarreal after taking the hot smash off the forearm area. Oh, mercy. Way back into right center field. And that is a 3-run big fly by Matt Adams to bust this thing open at 5-0.
Matt Adams hits it the long way, and it is our flamethrower at 95 miles an hour. He just turns around this fastball by Logan Ondrusek for our Cholula hot sauce flamethrower pitch of the night, and right down Broadway with 95 is hitting speed.
This guy in a short amount of time is becoming the Lance Berkman against Reds pitching. Of course, for better than a decade, Berkman just absolutely pulverized Reds pitching. And although Matt Adams is only really in his first full year, he got a large chunk of playing time last year, but this is his first full year in the major leagues. And Adams, in just 23 games, has 6 home runs and 14 runs batted in. All the while a batting average of up over 370. Molina hitless game at 4 at bats. And that's strike 3 to win the inning. But a huge blow delivered by Adams. 2-0 becomes 5-0. Reds will bat the bottom of the ninth. We're along the banks of the mighty Ohio, where a number of changes for the Cardinals on defense. They lead 5-0 after the 3-run home run by Matt Adams in the top of this ninth inning. And the new pitcher is left-hander Sam Freeman.
Well, they've only needed 3 on the night. Shelby Miller did his job. 7 innings of 3-hit shutout baseball. Pat Neshek came in to get out of the jam after Miller gave up a base hit to Brandon Phillips. Got an out and then a double play ball out of Chris Heisey. Now Sam Freeman in for game number 36. Having a pretty good year overall as Freeman. Guy's got a good arm, man. You wonder where it comes from. I mean, he's listed at 5'11". I'm not sure if he's even that tall, but 165 pounds, and it comes roaring right out of there in the mid-90s.
This is the kind of guy where if all of a sudden they had enough belief in his command, because you saw the 15 walks in 30 innings. I mean, that's not brutal, but it's not good. But with his stuff, as you mentioned, Chris, this is the kind of guy that when you get to the playoffs, this is a guy that can help you win a World Series if he's on his game.
You're right, Tom, and he's very similar to the guy they had a couple of years ago in Carlos Martinez, who came up out of nowhere, throwing mid-90s, had good command, had a period of time there that he was really the most valuable pitcher they had out of their bullpen. And you're always looking for that, and it's great to be able to go down the minor leagues and pull guys up that are throwing 95. Reds were able to do that with Jumbo Diaz this year, but
you know, you start looking around at some of the teams conceivably that you might be facing in the postseason in the team's left-handed batters. And Freeman's getting a lot of people out. I mean, opponents are batting .244. But you start with the Dodgers. Adrian Gonzalez, Andre Ethier. And they've got other guys off their bench they can bring in. There's a broken bat roll to short, and this will be the second out in the 9th inning. Bryce Harper when you're playing the Washington Nationals, and Adam LaRoche. You start looking at, say, the Pirates get in. Some of the left-handed batters they have coming off, they're in their regular lineup. So the Atlanta Braves, they have a piled up Freddie Freeman. So it's Sam Freeman. He might be locking up with Freddie, no relation, in a big moment in the postseason.
Always be interesting. Two guys with the same name.
Reds have 3 hits tonight. And a sinking liner, a diving catch to end the game. Well, the man who started the rally in a scoreless game when he came up as a pinch hitter with a double in the 7th inning, Grichuk makes a diving catch to end the game. So the Reds are shut out for the 14th time this year. They leave one man on base in a 5-0 defeat in the opener of 4 against the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's actually pretty amazing, Tom, when you consider how difficult it is to leave one runner on base. The Cardinals, by contrast, left 10 on base tonight. Even though they only scored 5 runs, they did have 10 hits. Many opportunities to blow the game open early on. They didn't do that.